Okay, so we are going to talk about planes of motion. This is kind of an esoteric or kind of abstract idea that sometimes it can be hard to grasp because you have to imagine your body being sectioned and then motions that are taking place in relation to how your body has been sectioned. So see, that already sounds confusing. So let's think of it like this. We have 3 planes of motion. In other words, motions occur parallel to certain planes. And we're going to start with the first one, which is the frontal plane. So I need you to imagine a really bad horror movie. And here I am, innocent, minding my own business, and a sheet of glass falls from the ceiling and cuts me in half, front to back. I told you it's a bad horror movie, okay? So that is my plane. The plane is the sheet of glass. It has divided my body into an anterior side and a posterior side, okay? So imagine that this is my sheet of glass. It has cut me in half. The back side of my body is on the other side of this, okay? So I've been planed. I'm divided into a front half and a back half. Any motion that I can wipe off that sheet of glass but not break it is a motion that is taking place parallel to that plane, or in other words, is taking place in that plane of motion, okay? So for example, plane has cut me into a front half and a back half. I could ab and adduct, my arm, and I could clean this sheet of glass, okay? I could radially and ulnarly deviate my hand. I could laterally flex, okay? Again, ab and adduction. I could invert and evert my ankle, okay? All of these, I would stay next to the glass, but I wouldn't break through it. So those are all frontal plane motions. Abduction, adduction, radial and ulnar deviation, inversion and eversion, okay? But let's look at some of the ones that don't take place in the frontal plane. How about flexion and extension? Okay, with flexion, I get farther away from the glass, and with extension, I'm breaking it, okay? So those aren't parallel, they are perpendicular, or trying to run through the plane of glass. So those do not take place within the frontal plane, okay? The next plane is the sagittal plane. Sagittal means side. So same horror movie. I'm gonna go this way. So now the sheet of glass has fallen through the top of my head, and it's divided me into a left and a right half. Okay, so pretend the right half of my body is on the other side of this wall, and all I have is a left half. Okay, that's the sagittal plane, this wall now. And I'm facing sideways to you because motions that take place in the sagittal plane can best be seen from the side. There's a little hint if you have a quiz, if you're given a picture and says, hey, the person's doing this. What plane of motion is that happening in? Well, if the picture's from the side, it's probably happening in the sagittal plane because that's how you can see it the best. Okay, so any motion where I'm not breaking this glass, okay, so flexion and extension, flexion and extension, flexion and extension, flexion and extension, flexion and extension. That's really it. That's all we have. Oh, dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. Thank you, camera person. Mm-hmm. Okay, all can be seen very well from the side. Another thing I think about is if we turned out all the lights in the room and just had a spotlight and all you could see was my shadow, which motions could you see my shadow? If the light was shining on me from the front, you would see really good frontal plane shadows. If the light was shining on my side, you would see really good sagittal plane shadows. And now we're going to talk about the last plane, which is the transverse plane. And the transverse plane, this table doesn't go any higher, but it's going to cut me in half from top to bottom. Okay, and it could happen down here, it could happen here, it could happen here. Anywhere where I'm being cut horizontally in half would be my transverse plane. Okay, and again, any motion I can do that would wipe off that plane of glass but not break it is a motion that's happening in that plane. So internal and external rotation, horizontal ab and adduction, okay, rotation, okay, I'm not breaking through the glass, but you can see that ab and adduction, I would break the glass, flexion and extension, I would break the glass, okay, so the whole idea is that my motion would be right next to that plane of glass, but not trying to break through it, okay? And for the transverse plane, think about a spotlight coming from the ceiling and what shadow you would see. You would see good shadows with rotation, horizontal ab and adduction. Okay, I think that's it.